welcome back to the We Are City channel for the start of Season 2. A new beginning, a new season. Season 2 is underway. And we saw a little promo that we did, a little episode, or a promo it really was, to say they were wrong. Last season we were so poor, but we came back. This season I want to do things differently. So much to happen in today's episode, which will start with pre-season, and also all the action, perhaps some transfers is coming. This is the way the starting 11 looked last season, the starting 25-man squad anyway. You can see there, Carson, Ortega, Edison were our three goalkeepers, the homegrown players in yellow. We had Akanji and Walker on the right, Ake and Vardiel on the left, and Diaz in the middle. Rodri and Phillips in there with Stones and Lewis. Then De Bruyne, Nunes and Fiorini, an attacking player on that right-hand side. Foden, Bob and Knight, the right-hand side, far right. Grealish, Doku and Gomez on the left. Bernardo and Kovacic in there as well, Alvarez and Haaland. So we had pretty much two players in every position. It was a very, very strong starting 25-man squad. I mean, really, Fiorini and Knight weren't quite included in it. They just made up the numbers. But it was a strong side. We had two players in every position, and I still felt a little bit light at times. I think two players in every position is certainly needed. I mean, Alvarez being able to play in the midfield helped as well. Kovacic playing in a defensive role as well, because after the January transfer window that came in Season 1, and the way things then finished with the 25-man squad, it did change. So let's have a look at the squad, the way it looked afterwards. This is how it was then looking at the end of Season 2. You saw that Alvarez was more playing in the role in behind Haaland, with Foden backing him up. De Bruyne and Nunes on the other side. Barco could play that inside role there. Grealish and Doku shared the left-hand side with Sergio Gomez at times, but Gomez I don't think is going to be a mainstay at the club. Lewis in there with Stones. Rodri actually backed up Calvin Phillips, who made a loan move away from the club to Aston Villa, and we're looking to move him on permanently, probably. Walker and Akanji on the right. Vardiel started ahead of Ake most of the time. Diaz in the centre, and Bernardo Silva found himself on that right hand side as his permanent position. He started in a central role, but he found Bernardo on the right, and then De Bruyne and either Foden or Alvarez in behind Haaland was the way to go, with Grealish and Doku on the left hand side. That was our attacking lineup, and Rodri and Stones are pretty much always the back, and then Diaz in the centre with either Walker, Akanji or Vardiel Ake on either side of them. So going into Season 2 now, this is what I'm looking at. So with Calvin Phillips expected to go, we're going to put a new defensive midfielder. I think we do need a new holding midfielder. I don't like Kovacic there particularly. So a new holding midfielder. And I'm expecting Bernardo Silva to leave the club, actually. Sergio Gomez I expect to leave as well, but especially Bernardo Silva. With only a £50 million release clause in his contract, I expect Bernardo Silva to move to Barcelona this time. I think they're going to have a bit of money, Barcelona, this summer, and I expect him to come in for Bernardo. And the way I want to replace Bernardo is with two players. So I've always wanted a new attacking midfielder, someone who can just bring a new bit of creativity to the side, to sort of take the burden off Kevin De Bruyne. I don't think Alvarez is particularly creative at times, so that's why I want to bring that one in. And Bernardo's such a good player, I think we need two players to replace him. So we're bringing that new creative attacking midfielder, a new centre attacking midfielder, and also a right winger as well. That is the idea, to bring in a new right-hand-sided player. The right winger's not being such a crucial player, not a really big signing. You'll know who that is pretty soon. But the two big signs are going to be the holding midfielder to replace Phillips, and hopefully with the future of Rodri, and a new attacking midfielder that can sort of take the burden of creativity off Kevin De Bruyne, and also be a really exciting signing for this career mode. You've got to keep it exciting, haven't you? And that's where you're looking. So you can see here, Calvin Phillips is the first player I want to replace. So the sort of ideas we're looking for with Phillips: a first team quality player, high ability to pick a pass, physically strong, can still develop. That's what we're looking for. High game intelligence, and willing to start as a rotation. Phillips is 28 years of age now, and we've got a budget of around 65 million. That's how much I'm willing to spend on a replacement for Calvin Phillips. You can see there's 66 pace, 66 shooting, 79 passing, dribbling, defending, physical. He's quite an all-rounder, Phillips, at 82 rated, but he flopped at Manchester City, and he's flopped at us when he came on in last season. He made that loan move to Villa. Doesn't look like they're going to make a permanent move for Calvin Phillips, actually, which is surprising me, in fact. So 65 million's there. I think we'll get around 40 million for Phillips. That's a £25 million investment and a new player for that position. And I want maybe a younger player. We'll have to see what the options are to replace Phillips. So the first one was Joshua Kimmich. He was on my list. You can see his stats there. 73 pace, 74 shooting. But it's the passing, the dribbling, the defending and physical that stand out. The thing is with Joshua Kimmich, though, he's 89 rated and he's 29 years of age. He's not at the top of his game, Kimmich. He's already at sort of a level now where he's the best he's ever going to be. He's only going to sort of decrease, I think. And yes, he can play the sort of Rico Lewis role, moving from right back to holding midfield, and yes, he can back up Rodri, but one, he's too good to be a backup. Two, I think he's too old. Three, we've got Rico Lewis doing that role anyway, and four, his market value is 75 million. How much is Joshua Kimmich going to cost us? way too much. Way too much. And we're saying 65 million budget. Kimmich, we could bring him in for around 60, but no. So then I looked at another player, an experienced one, in João Paulinho. I thought maybe for Paulinho we could offer a straight swap for Calvin Phillips, actually, for Paulinho. He's 84 rated, 29 years of age. Again, not as good passing, so he's not as good on the ball as Kimmich, but he's physical and defending are massive, massive attributes that I really do like. The thing is, he was close to a £65 million move to Bayern Munich, so we know we can get him within our budget. But again, the two things that put me off with Paulinho is, one, his age, and two, I don't know what his willingness is to be a backup to Rodri. I think he wants to start. I think we could get him in for really cheap, maybe 35 million, it says here. But yeah, Paulinho, I don't think it's going to be the one because of his age. They were the first two to sort of say an experienced player to come in that position. But I do think we need to look for more younger players. And like we said, we want really a key point. What we're looking for is someone who can still develop. And that's a big thing. And yes, Paulinho and Kimmich can still develop their game. Paulinho especially, I mean, under a manager like Guardiola, surely he can elevate his game. But I think we need someone who is a bit younger. So then I turned to a few more options. And there was like sort of four big options, really. One was Douglas Luiz. You can see here, Douglas Luiz, 84 rated, 26 years of age. Has had a really, really good season at Aston Villa. Great passing stats, 86 passing, 81 dribbling, good defending physical stats. And you can see on the screen here, these are the four players we are looking at. And they're, you know, progressive carries, defensive actions, forward passes. You can see there the four players I'm going to mention now. So Douglas Luiz was one of them. You can see Luiz is the pink player. Key passes, he excels compared to anyone else, and also in carrying. So that is Douglas Luiz's qualities. Now, he's played for City before. Guardiola said if it wasn't for the work permit problem with Douglas Luiz, he'd still be playing for Manchester City. So that sort of shows how good he is. It's whether he'd be willing to come in and play as a backup to Rodri, or willing to learn from Rodri at 26. He's just, I mean, if he was 25 and he's got 5 years before he's 30, maybe something in there. Villa will be looking for around 40 million, which I think is a fair enough deal for Douglas Luiz. And you can see there in the way he performs, that's pretty good. But I just think he's in a key Aston Villa side that are really performing at the moment. Would he want to move to Manchester City where he's not going to play as much football? I don't think so. He's had his chance at City. Things didn't maybe work out the way they wanted to. So Douglas Luiz, I don't think is the perfect option, but he's certainly top of the list. One that you guys voted for massively. Another one is Fiorentina Luis, a very quality player, actually. You can see there, 24 years of age, 82 rated already. He was heavily linked with City years ago as the sort of Fernandinho replacement. City went for Rodri instead, and you can see actually in terms of performances and how much he actually does, you can see there in the percentiles and so on the graph, that forward passes, he's really, really good at forward passes, progressive passes, duels and defensive actions, but key passes and carrying, he's a lot less than everyone. You can see how the green goes in there. Now, pace, he's slower than most players that we've got. His shooting is poor and his passing is poor, and I think that is the biggest issue I've got with Fiorentina Luis, is his passing. Dribbling, he's decent enough. Defending great, physicality great, only 24 years of age, certainly a big step up from Benfica to Manchester City, but he's willing to learn. But the passing is a big issue for me, and when you bring in a player for 45 million, you want someone at that age to be already have the qualities you need to play that role. It's a crucial role, a very important role to play holding midfield for City. Now, Rodri needs a rest at times. Rodri needs the burden taken off him at times, and I don't think Fiorentina Luis could start a Champions League game for Manchester City. I don't believe so. Another option here in the list again is Alan Varela. He's probably the least favourite. I did a little community poll, of course, which I'll show for you guys as well in the votes. He was the least favourite. A decent all-rounder, tenacious, got a high potential. But you can see there, stats-wise, again, he's a better passer than Fiorentina Luis. His dribbling's not so good. His defending's not so good. His physical's okay. He is probably the least quality player and more of a project player than all of them. He is actually on there, the one in yellow, and you can see he is the smallest in terms of anything, absolutely the smallest. So he possibly isn't the right man at all, and he's the least favourite for us to sign to sort of come in and back up for Rodri, which I totally understand from you guys. So that is why Alan Varela, I think he is definitely fourth choice in the list. He's going to be the cheapest option, coming for under 30 million, which I think is a steal, really, for a very high potential player. He's got 85 potential, say. But I understand it. I understand the non-popularity with Alan Varela. He's only 78 rated. He's not really a particularly exciting signing to come in and play that role, I think. And like Florentino Luis, I just can't see him starting a Champions League semi-final if Rodri's injured. I can't, and I don't want to be playing Kovacic there again. I want a key player, and that is why Umbrella is 4th on the list. Now, a player that is sort of second favourite for you guys, could be top favourite for me, I'll have to say, is Martin Zubimendi. He has that similarity to Rodri in terms of he's got 74 passing, which surprised me. I think it feels like it should be higher than that. 77 dribbling, 80 defending, and 73 physical. But I do think he is that player in the mould of Rodri that can step in and be a seamless replacement. Percentile-wise, in terms of the graph, he's not the most impressive. Not the most impressive. He is sort of Fiorentino Luis, and Douglas Luis certainly outdoes them all. But he, in terms of forward passes, is up there with Fiorentino Luis. Key passes is much lower than Douglas Luis. Also in progressive passes, but duels is up there. He likes to get into duels, we'd like to see. Defensive actions is at the same level as Luis and Varela. And carrying is sort of at the level of Luis. So I think he's the closest player as a sort of a mix between Douglas Luis and Rodri. And I do think he could be that sort of Rodri player for the future. I do think he has that in his locker. I think he does come in the mould of Rodri. He's got a release clause in his contract as well, which is something that Manchester City and our sporting director, Chicky Begiristain, will look at and say, that's just a simple deal for us to complete 55 million or whatever. Let's get the deal done. And that is something we need to look at. So, yeah, I think it is between Douglas Luis and Martin Zubimendi. If not, we'll make a move for Florentino Luis. Well, and you can see there, if we made those moves with a new right winger and so on, that is how the side could be looking then. A new attacking midfielder, a new holding midfielder, a new right winger. So they could be, say, Luis or Zubimendi in there. A new attacking midfielder could be, we'll go into that one in a second, a new right winger. So that's the new holding midfielder. We're saying Zubimendi. Right winger now, a new defensive midfielder. They're the two next positions we need to look at. Who in that position as well. But you can see when you start to say, what, Florentino Luis, Douglas Luis, Zubimendi and that Rodri role, you start to say, the squad looks pretty strong. And then if you add an attacking midfield to that, then the squad looks very, very strong. We've developed a really strong side with two world-class players pretty much in every position. And that would mean Stones playing a more deeper role this season in the defensive role. But with Walker decreasing, about 82 rated now, Walker, not getting any younger, Stones can excel in that role, and I think can offer something very different in that role. Well, breaking news coming out here from Spain and from Brazil. It is Man City is set to sign Brazilian Savio from sister club Troyes in a deal for around 22 million. Savio, heavily linked to Manchester City. He is one of our options as we look to replace Bernardo Silva. We'll go all into that, but he is looking like he's going to the new right-hand sided player. Been very, very impressive at Girona. We scouted him last season. A few times he came to us and said, listen, this guy is really performing. He's managed to make it into the Brazilian national team as well after the performance at Girona. Returned to Troyes from his loan, and Manchester City, we've had to go make a move. And so we've agreed a deal for Savio. We're just working on personal terms now and a work permit and so on for Savio, but we should be able to complete that, and we hopefully should be able to complete that deal for a really exciting young player. Well, Bernardo Silva is the other player we are looking to replace this summer. You can see here his position is a right winger, a centre attacking midfielder. He plays in both. I'm looking for a budget of around 85 million to replace Bernardo Silva. That's including the transfer of Savio. So Savio, I think, is going to come in as the right winger. He's been actually explosive at Girona. He can come in, and then that leaves a bit of a budget left over to sign an attacking midfielder. And you see from Bernardo Silva, looking for a first-team quality player, a very creative player in all areas, one-on-one ability in wide areas as well. Still can develop high game intelligence and hard working, and that. All that what we're looking for is going to come in the combination of two players. I mean, he's got 93 dribbling, 87 passing, 71 physical, 70 defending, 70 pace. He's a real all-rounder. 5-star, 5-star. In all honesty, I don't want to lose Bernardo Silva. I want Bernardo to stay. Bernardo is brilliant. I thought he was fantastic for his last season. He's one of Pep's favourite players, but he's asked to leave City year on year on year. He signed a new contract last year with a £50 million release clause in there. So that sort of says to me, Bernardo wants to go, and Barcelona might just come and trigger it. Then you have to look at the options to replace Bernardo. So the first three we looked at were Gabri Veiga. I thought about perhaps Gabri Veiga to replace Bernardo Silva. City heavily linked with him. But that move to Saudi Arabia really just put me off him. I think that he's a player that obviously is not as ambitious as I first thought. And yes, he can play right wing and centre midfielder. So he does actually both the roles that Bernardo does do. I don't think he's the right player. Plus, I'm not paying 55, 70 million for a player from the Saudi League. I think that is just an unambitious player. Yes, he's only 22, but that just doesn't seem the right move, and I don't think he's got the mentality to be in this City side, Gabri Veiga. So I put him off. And another player I looked at, these first three are options that we're not going to go for, but they were options to me. Alex Baena. I had a good look at Alex Baena, 23, only 78 rated, and that's what puts me off him really, such a low rating. I think he's very underrated. I think it should be high. I think he should be an 81, 82 personally. If you watch La Liga and watching for Villarreal, can play centrally and out wide as well. He played for City's sister side Girona as well as Bayern for a while, but he wasn't someone we're going to go for. And initially, before I started the career mode, when City first signed Jeremy Doku, I intended to sign a left winger because I assumed Doku was a right winger. Doku's actually a left winger now, isn't he, for City? And that seems to be his role. But I was looking at Karo Mitoma, who was a massive favourite of you guys. So many people voted that they wanted Mitoma ahead of Rafael Leao, ahead of Kvaratskhelia, and that is massive. That shows the popularity Mitoma carries, and I would have loved him at City. But one thing is we've got Gresham and also Doku playing on the left-hand side, and Doku is purely a left winger now, I think, for us, the same as Gresham, so is Mitoma. And also Mitoma, he hasn't got a real game face. If he had a real game face, EA Sports just might have swayed me, and I would have made it work. So the real options then are obviously Savio, who's going to come in 79 rated from Twat. We're just waiting for him to agree personal terms. We have agreed a deal for Savio, 22.5 million. Plus Luke and Bete will go and develop there. 85 pace, 74 shooting, 75 passing, 81 dribbling. You can see Savio there compared to Doku and also Bernardo Silva. Doku, by the way, on that metric is absolutely outdoing everyone. Bernardo's better in key passes, non-penalty goals, but in the middle. And you can see Savio is not that far off Doku. So what Savio brings is, yes, some of what Bernardo Silva brings without the key passes, but he can develop that side of his game, but also much more. So on to the actual attacking players then. Eze, he is top pick from you guys. I'll show you guys the vote that you voted for. Eze is by far top pick. I mean, look at the way he's looking in the metrics. Eze there is the one in blue. Dribbling, carrying, off-the-ball actions, he's pretty good. Not goals, non-penalty goals, not so much. Key passes, not so much. But offensive actions, Eze is very much involved. Shooting, 77, but 86 dribbling, 80 passing, 81 pace. With losing Phillips, we need a new English player. That is one thing to remember as well. You've got to have 8 homegrown English players in your side. That is part of our rules. So Eze would fulfill that. And I'm looking at Eze and thinking, yes, he seems like a really, really good option. And like I said, in the vote, you guys voted Eze by far the absolute favourite to come in and be our new creative force. One player is Yamal Musiala, who I've put here. He wasn't on the vote. He is a long-term replacement for Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, he's got 94 dribbling. You see, in terms of Musiala, he is the yellow. He covers pretty much all the area there. You can see he's by far, alongside Dani Olmo, who we'll get into, by far one of the best players. I think for this summer, we're looking at a player to play alongside Kevin De Bruyne to be an extra player in there, really, Musiala. Plus, he's going to cost upwards of nearly 200 million. I think he is the long-term Kevin De Bruyne replacement. He's a player you look at and say, this guy's replacing De Bruyne. But right now, Musiala to come in, I don't think is what we're looking for. We've got Kev. I don't want to push De Bruyne out of the team. We've got Foden. He's for the future. Another player is Lucas Paquetá, heavily linked with City. Could actually move into City in January, depending on what happens with his betting scandal. In this save, Lucas Paquetá has been banned for 6 months. So despite his absolutely wonderful stats, I mean, he's an absolute all-rounder. And you look at those stats and you think he's got to be the Bernardo Silva replacement. He wasn't popular with you guys. Only 9% or so on voted for you guys, voted for him in the vote. And actually looking at his actual performances-wise, barring key passes, he's lower than everyone. I don't know if it's because he plays in the West Ham side, but performance-wise, he's not up there. He's going to cost around 60 million or 85 million in real life. I just don't see it with Paquetá this season, and I'm hoping that he does join City in real life, and in future career modes, Lucas Paquetá going to be playing for Manchester City. But that pushes Lucas Paquetá down the list, and I mean, there's one real obvious option here, isn't it, by reading these out. The next one was Dani Olmo. These are the 4. Florian Wirtz in there as well, but I signed him last season. Dani Olmo was also signed in last year's career mode. But you can see there in terms of performances, key passes, offensive actions, carries, dribbles, non-penalty goals, goals and assists. The guy is absolutely blitzing everyone possible. 85 rated 26. He is by far, in terms of stats as well, the best player, more all-rounder alongside Paquetá, but he's going to cost 85 million. Signed a new deal with RB Leipzig. That is a lot of money, and that's more money than I am willing to spend on Dani Olmo. But he looks a real superstar as well, and we've got 4 good options going into that creative midfield role. A little breaking news coming out about City target Eze. He did sign a new contract with Crystal Palace towards the end of last season. A new deal with Palace taking him till 2027, which you think may have put Manchester City off, but it hasn't, because Eze's representatives have revealed that he does have a release clause in his new contract. Amid interest from big clubs including Manchester City, Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool and so on, many clubs are interested in the England international, and he does have a release clause in his contract. Could that just sway us in a move towards Eze ahead of maybe any other player on our list and possible options? Eze might be the player we go for now, considering this news is pretty big and means it will be more of a simple deal and a more of a Manchester City type deal to complete if we were to sign Eze. But Filipe Stevanovic joins Bristol City for 1.2 million in the Championship. Slobodan Tedic has moved to Turkey for just under $1 million. And then finally, Yamal Baptiste. He has moved to Sampdoria on a 12-month loan. Well, there's going to be plenty of news coming out about loan players, and one of those is Kian Breckin, on loan at Wycombe Wanderers last season. He's really developed well, the young superstar, and it looks like Fulham are interested in taking him to the Premier League on loan. That would be a massive move and a good place for his development. Are the club objectives on EAFC? Win the Thick League and so on, sign one young player, all that stuff, confidence rating, but we're more bothered about our objectives, and they're exactly the same as last year with a few little changes. So we've got to make 2 CFG signs each. Some of the CFG signs will be shown in maybe the next episode, maybe the one after. And never net spend more than 60 million, so we've got to keep our eye on that one. Any signs of a 27 must cost less than 30 million. As we know, no signs of a 30 unless they're on a free. And all transfer negotiations led by Sporting Director Cheeky Begerstein, which they have been. No signs in January, but one upcoming star. So last January signed Valentin Barco. We will sign another superstar in January, upcoming superstar anyway. So we must, for the squad rules, integrate one player from the academy of the CFG and the loan group each summer, which we, of course, will do. Nico O'Reilly's there. He's one we could bring through. We've also got Savio who's joined, who is an integrated from the CFG army. 25-man squad, which we'll do at the end of the transfer window when all the moves have happened. Of course, 8 homegrown players must be in that 25-man squad. Every player in the 25-man squad must make a minimum of, this said 7 last year. We've put it up to 14 appearances. So not any youth players under 21. Not, of course, obviously excluding new injuries and the third choice keeper, but 14 appearances every player must play or they will be moved on. And objectives-wise, we've got win at least 1 trophy this season again. I think we'll do that. We've got our every match played, 1 player we picked to man of the match and so on, and those things as well, which you understand from the first season now. The objectives are already laid out, we already know them, and I suppose you guys are thinking, 1, who are we going to sign in this episode, and 2, what are your guys' minds? Who are we going to sign in that superstar in January? Well, plenty to come up in this series. I'm really excited for this season too. Kian Breckin has left the club to join Fulham on a 12-month loan. That's a great move for him in the Premier League. We see Joshua Wilson-Esbriand go to La Liga to play for Osasuna for the season on a 12-month loan. And Dario Sarmiento, another Premier League loan move to Forest. What a move for these players. Well, some more news about young Manchester City developing players looking for loans. It looks like Brentford agree a loan deal with Manchester City for Championship goal machine Liam Delap. Had a really good season at Hull City last year, and Brentford want to take Liam Delap into the Premier League and develop in the Premier League, and that is perfect for Manchester City. A young player developing, if he can perform in the Premier League, then he's either going to come back and play for us or be sold for a big fee next summer. What a move that could be for Liam Delap. So, opening game of pre-season for Pep Guardiola. Manchester City take on Al-Hilal here in the pre-season opening game. A chance for Pep Guardiola to try out some tactics, try some new ideas. Phil Foden is the key man in there today. There is Pep Guardiola standing on. The City fans have come in their numbers, haven't they, to see these two sides go head-to-head in a pre-season game. It's going to be good to see some real high-quality players in there. City have got a strong side. Pep can test out those tactics going into the new season. It's City versus Al-Hilal. City at the other end now with Oscar Bob, Rico Lewis, Nico O'Reilly playing for City and could be in their first team this year. Foden, Valentin Barco. Good little running behind by Barco here. Far post is Oscar Bob in space. Well, he could play a key part in Manchester City's season this year, Oscar Bob. Key player, upcoming perhaps. Came through Manchester City's youth system, trusted by Pep Guardiola with appearances last year. Made around 20 appearances, got 1 goal and 5 assists in that time. This is good play by City. Valentin Barco is the man who finds Bob in the box. Bob's not missing from that sort of range. Very good finish from the young Norwegian, who continues to develop, continues to impress, and soon enough, surely, will be a real contender to start in this Manchester City side under Pep Guardiola. He's very happy with that goal by Bob, and very happy from the development of this young Norwegian, who continues to get better and better. Nico O'Reilly also involved in the build-up of that goal. Don't forget his name. Al-Hilal come the other way now. Out wide they go. Malcolm, the Brazilian, who he's got away from. Vardiel quite well there. Malcolm, near post past Stefan Ortega. And the Brazilian equalises for Al-Hilal. Well, former Barcelona Bordeaux and Zenit. St. Petersburg man here played him. After a good bit of skill past Vardiel, gets a bit of luck. He rides his luck and then he smashed it hard at the near post. Beats Stefan Ortega. The German can't keep it out. And City and Al-Hilal are back level now with a good finish from Malcolm. They go to Ake. Good little football by City. It's given away by Vardiel's had a bit of a shaky game today. Alexander Mitrovic. Mitrovic! And a big right hand from Stefan Ortega to keep them out. That should be Al-Hilal in the lead there. Former Fulham man Mitrovic couldn't finish it. And substitution for City, Vardiel is off. Erling. And that is full time. Well, a side of superstars, Manchester City, but so are Al-Hilal. Ruben Neves, Malcolm, Mitrovic, Koulibaly, Bono and plenty more. City couldn't find a winning goal. And the two sides draw level. And pre-season's just about fitness, about trying things out for the managers. Both sides certainly did that. Stefan Ortega impressed in goal, making some big saves throughout the game. And so Yasin Bono at the other end. City won, Al-Hilal won. Well, there you go. Savio has agreed a deal with Manchester City. It is Luke Mbete moving to Troyes, 22.5 million. Plus Savio coming to Manchester City. They're one of our clubs in Troyes. We don't want to outdo them and do them over. So there is Savio arriving at the training ground. Here comes the Brazilian. He is going to be really exciting for us. He's played on the left-hand side for Girona. Been so good there, playing for them on loan from Troyes. City have bought him permanently. That was always the aim of the young Brazilian, to move to Manchester City on a permanent deal. He's moved to Manchester City on a permanent deal now, and he will be a key player this season on that right-hand side. One of the two to replace Bernardo Silva. He wore the number 16 for Girona, but he'll wear the number 14 shirt for now anyway. And Savio moves to Manchester City. So welcome to Manchester City, Savio. 22.5 million plus Luke Mbete will go and play first team football at Troyes in Ligue 1. And there he is holding the shirt. Savio, it says Kovacic on his shirt there. Photoshop has done me over there. I need to fix that one, don't I? But Savio at Manchester City, holding up a shirt as a City player. It's great to see. Well, more transfer talk is building around the possibility of Eze to City. Man City could make a move again for Crystal Palace's star man Eze this summer. It's been revealed that in the midfielder's new contract there is a release clause that can be activated by a Champions League club. The clause is rumored to be in between 65 to 75 million, and Pep Guardiola is reportedly a big fan of the England international who he wants to add to his squad. So Eze to Manchester City, it is starting to heat up a possible deal for the Crystal Palace man. Not exactly sure what our sporting directors are doing behind the scenes, but it could be that our new attacking midfielder is Eze, ahead of Paquetá, ahead of Musiala, who looks like one more for the future after Kevin De Bruyne, ahead of Dani Olmo, and of course ahead of many other options as well on that list. But Eze, keep your eye on this deal. The tension, the news, everything continues to build around a possible signing of Eze this summer. Alex Robertson has joined Leicester City on a 12-month loan, another Premier League move for our players, and Liam Delap, massive Premier League move to impress at Brentford for 12 months. Well, another really interesting loan move could happen. It's another Premier League loan. Yan Couto is wanted by De Zerbi at Brighton. What a move that would be for him to play in the Premier League and then hopefully play for Manchester City next season if he can develop and play well in the Premier League. That's another fantastic loan move, isn't it? Really good. This looks like Brighton are interested in a double deal with Manchester City, as Man City flop is described in this news report. Phillips agrees personal terms with Brighton. Could he also move to another Premier League side? That would be a good move. Hopefully we get a big fee as well for Phillips. The big Premier League loan, Yan Couto off to Brighton till the end of the season. That's a great move to learn under De Zerbi. One of the young City youth player who's been coming through our youth system, been very good and highly rated by Pep Guardiola, James McAtee. He is linked with a move to La Liga and to test himself on loan in Spain with a side from the La Liga side, a Spanish side. Someone who's a bit better than Sheffield. He had a bit of a poor loan move last season. Sheffield United, a very poor side in the Premier League. They didn't perform at all in the Premier League. And with relegation, McAtee went down and couldn't really show his talents and really show how good he is. He wants to be a City player in the future. Pep Guardiola wants him as a City player in the future. Hopefully in La Liga, he can develop a little bit better. Well, City's next game in pre-season is another one against the Saudi Super League side in Al-Ittihad, a side that does have some superstars in there, namely Karim Benzema and N'Golo Kante, Fabinho. Out come the two sides here, and again, a packed stadium with the fans away from home, away from Manchester, all ready to see two sides go head-to-head. Karim Benzema's side against Erling Haaland's side. Two big strikers, the two best in the world perhaps, go head-to-head here. Guardiola ready for another test for his Manchester City side. Benzema. Pull out wide here towards De Bruyne through. De Bruyne through to Erling Haaland. He surely scores. He's tried to just place it in that bottom corner. It's a good save by the keeper. Well, it's a debut time for Manchester City. Off comes Bernardo Silva, passing the torch perhaps. Replace him is Brazilian Savio. New signing for 22 million from Troyes. Chance for them here. Diving in is Kyle Walker. Too easy. Chance, and Ederson pushed it up and into the air. And then comes out and claims it anyway, the Brazilian. But too easy to get through the City defence there. Over the top here to Savio. Oh, he's nicked it, Savio. Brilliant. Could he score a debut goal? Savio off the underside of the bar and away. Unlucky. Jack Grealish picks it up. De Bruyne. Matthias Nunes with a strike. He deflects to Erling Haaland, who does not miss in that situation. And the Norwegian gets his first goal. And he does the gritty, inspired by Jeremy Doku. City score. And of course, it's the big man up top, Erling Haaland, who gets the goal for Manchester City. A bit fortunate the way it falls to end the deflection. But down to Haaland off El Ghazi. And the Egyptian, very unlucky to see his block deflected to Erling Haaland, who smashed it into the top of the roof of the net. And City take the lead here in pre-season against Al-Ittihad. De Bruyne, and that is full time. Manchester City see themselves get a win in their second game of pre-season against another Saudi Pro League side. They couldn't beat Al-Hilal. But Al-Ittihad, on the other hand, City come away with a 1-0 win. And it's a goal from City's 54 in all competitions last season, man. Erling Haaland up top. A debut for Savio as well, which was good to see. City win. And a big move away from the club is Calvin Phillips. He's finally completed a permanent deal. Not to Aston Villa, who took him on loan for 6 months at the end of last season. Calvin Phillips moves to Brighton & Hove Albion for 40 million. That's 40 million in the bank. Well, the news around Eze continues to grow, and now they are reporting that Manchester City have opened official talks with Crystal Palace over the possible signing of Eze this summer. That looks like it's going to happen with a release clause in his contract. City can just trigger that. All they've got to do is agree personal terms. Eze to City is getting closer and closer, and I expect this deal to happen. James McAtee completes a loan move to Celta Vigo for 12 months. The new Gabri Veiga, perhaps, if he plays there. And Sergio Gomez moves to Fiorentina on a 12-month loan. Big move for him to impress. Well, Manchester City at this rate might just have a player at loan at every Premier League club. Newcastle United now are interested in making a double loan move for Callum Doyle, very impressive young Callum Doyle, and Maximo Perrone for the midfield. That would be two really good signs for Newcastle and two really good moves for Manchester City as we look to develop our young players. Perrone to Newcastle, Doyle to Newcastle, playing together, both performing together at a very high Premier League side. What a move. We've got a player at every Premier League side at this rate, if that happens. And it's still Howard Bellis can't get a permanent deal under his belt, so he's off to Borussia Mönchengladbach in the Bundesliga. Well, there you have it. Breaking news. Deal agreed for Eze, Eberechi Eze, to join Manchester City from Crystal Palace. Manchester City have agreed, apparently, a 65 million plus deal with Crystal Palace to the star man in midfield. And he now, I assume, has agreed personal terms in Manchester City already. So City have agreed that deal with Palace. I don't know if it's exactly to activate the release clause, or City have agreed to bring him in a little bit less than the release clause with a bit more in bonuses. We'll have to see. But Palace will be very happy with that deal. I think the amount of money they're getting. Eze will be happy with the move with Manchester City, and Pep Guardiola will be happy that he's got his man, a new creative talent in midfield, to help out the burden on Kevin De Bruyne. And that Newcastle double deal has been completed. Maximo Perrone in midfield and Callum Doyle in defence, both moving to Newcastle at the end of the season. Two really good loan moves, been fantastic with the loans this season. And there you can see, we have agreed our deal. Eze has agreed personal terms in Manchester City. It's all done and dusted. Welcome to Manchester City. Eberechi Eze as our new creative midfielder. What a signing he is for the club. He is going to be fantastic. Meeting Pep Guardiola for the first time. Handshake between the England international and Pep Guardiola. His new manager, who surely takes Eze to elevate his game. Going through a medical currently, but I'm so excited for the signing of Eze. He won't wear the number 15 shirt. I'm thinking the number 22 for Eze. I think that's what he's going to wear. That is what I've got sorted in my head. But there is Eze in a City shirt, moving to Manchester City. Palace to Manchester City. Deal done between Eze and the club. We're going to train him here as an attacking midfielder. Want to improve his passing, I think, maybe. Or as a shadow striker, improve his attacking midfield role, but we'll do it as an attacking midfielder. He's going to be very, very key. Hopefully, he can take that creative burden off Kevin De Bruyne. He will wear the number 22 shirt. I'm so excited to see him at the club, Eze. What a player he could be. Welcome to Manchester City, Eze. Massive, massive signing in the City shirt. And we're going to get to see him play his first City game a little bit, just glimpses of him before the end of the episode. In a pre-season game, just a few seconds or so, he will play there. But all eyes on his competitive debut which will be against, I do believe, in the Community Shield against Manchester United. And the final game of Manchester City's pre-season will be against Maurizio Sarri's Lazio. And as you can see there, all eyes are on Eze. First impression for their big money signing from Crystal Palace, England international, and a chance for him to impress today in his first games in a sky blue shirt. There is Eze, who's joined the club on pre-season after completed a deal from Crystal Palace. Plenty of signs perhaps still to come for Manchester City. Who knows? Outcome of two sides here. Again, everyone excited for that Eze debut. Lazio on the counter here. City away open. Nathan Ake and Akanji struggling. Ball through the legs of Ake here. Felipe Anderson. And it's off the post and in. And Lazio take the lead. And that's a poor start by Manchester City, isn't it, here today? Very open at the back. Nathan Ake. Manu Akanji. Plays on the far side as well. Just couldn't get it right. Ake's nutmegged as he comes to cut out the pass across the box to Felipe Anderson. He's in acres of space. Not chased well enough by Grealish and Barco. And off the post and in. Lazio. Another counter here as well by Lazio. Away from Nathan Ake. It's Anderson once again. Anderson, great play. Anderson into the bottom corner. Well, the former West Ham United man has had a spectacular game here today. And early in the game, Lazio take a 2-0 lead. City have not been able to control them at all. It's Sowell. Found in the box. Found Anderson. And Anderson finds the bottom corner. Tacchini. Sowell. Former Aletti man back into Kamada here. And the Japanese international gives Lazio a 3-0 lead. City have been so poor defensively. Let's hope that's not signs of what's to come in this pre-season tournament. It's been poor. Well, full time we jumped to result. It was a 4-0 win for Lazio. City so poor in that final game of pre-season. But we saw Eze on the pitch. That's going to end today's episode. Thank you very much for watching. Plenty more action to come as we start this new series of Season 2. Please like the video if you haven't already. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. And we'll see you next time.